Welcome. Today I have updated hike photos of 2025 in regard to hiker Jef Cla, but the results will shock you in comparison to 2016. Join me today as I share with you the shocking truth behind missing time out in the desert. Recently, key hiker Jef Cla reached out to me in an email in regard to a hike he set out on late May of 2025 in regard to going up Picture Canyon and up to the slope opposite or near to the Agave pit, the opposite way as Kenny Veach did when leaving the area. The reason why Jef Cla set out once again was to try and monitor, measure, compare, contrast hike footage, or more so photos, and the timestamps too. In his own words, he said, "In 2016, it took me 2 hours and 10 minutes to get from the little sheep skull on the boulder to that slope above the Agave pit. In 2025, 9 years later, with a sore foot and mostly in the dark, it took me 30 to 40 minutes. Why? I did this hike on May 29th, 2025 and wanted to record it with 3 cameras and timers, but the sun was already setting when I arrived and I had to get the footage that I could. It is actually much brighter on video than it was in person. I will explain it more in detail when I upload the entire video, but it is 3 gigabytes, which means reducing the file size again. Even though I only had 1 camera going and didn't have time to set on-screen timer, the length of time of video is obvious and proves my point. There is no reason that the hiking leg should have taken anywhere close to 2 hours 10 minutes, and that was only one of the hiking legs that took too long on that day. In addition, he added on by saying the actual video length is only 21 minutes between the spot further east of the Agave pit when I crossed over to the slope for an overview, and the little sheep skull and the boulder in front of the covered cave/M holes. The footage from the slope to that point cut out just like happened to SB Vegas Adventures on that spot. However, that section only takes at most 10 minutes to complete and at most another 10 minutes to climb halfway up that slope. That's why I say 40 minutes total at most. 40 minutes is nowhere close to 2 hours and 10 minutes, so my point is valid. There is a lot of missing time on that hiking leg, just like there is on every hiking leg of that hike in 2016. I really think the vibration zapping had something to do with the missing time and is what actually happened to Kenny Veach. He got vibrated, for it was coming from the cave, but it wasn't. It was coming from somewhere else. He probably got missing timed on that hike, but didn't realize it because he didn't have anything to compare it to. He went back and got missing time permanently. Whatever is doing that is the answer to this mystery. Now, it is important to acknowledge that besides Jef Cla and Kenny Veach, no other hiker has reported feeling any vibrations or sensations like that to my knowledge publicly. So it does make you wonder if there is a correlation to being buzzed, zapped by what? Electronic military equipment stored somewhere, and that could impact your mental mind in passing out and waking up later, hence why time has passed on so much, or if it be malfunctions with equipment, because besides missing time, there has been lost footage within the area, such as when SB Vegas Adventures was passing through the same spot. In his own words, Steve said, quick note about the new video, it was a monster hike almost 10 miles through Picture Canyon and to the old mineshaft where Kenny Veach stood at back. But whilst I was editing, I noticed I had 1 mile of missing footage and I am 100% sure I was filming. This happened in the same area location where Sean Horlacker, fellow hiker, got sick and near the M Cave cover-up. This is also the area where I ran out of water. Coincidence? You decide. Interested to hear from you. With that being said, I think it's now time to take a look at the boots on ground footage and perspective from Jef Cla in recent time and to try and understand what's going on in the area. First screenshot what you're looking at was taken from Google Earth satellite imagery of the map project that I did of the 2016 hike of Jef Cla. As you can see where the markers are located, it is facing a different angle in regard to the photos what we'll be taking a look at, but this is just a reference point. What you see on the right hand side of the screen lower down as it zigzags in and out is approaching Picture Canyon. And in regard to, in the distance, far left of the screen, you have the ridge known as Wild Horse Pass. And over the mountains, lower ground down that way is eventually Jomay Road. So this is taking a look back at the hike route Kenny Beach would have come up and down and then heading, I believe, west. We are currently looking south, just for reference as for compass. And where the markers are, picture 1, picture 2, you see the time difference, and how can that be possible, right? And it's the same area, roughly, with SB Vega's adventures. Is there more going on behind the rock walls and the canyons and the shallow little caves and any keyholes nearby? The supposed covered M cave, which may have once been open. What is lurking within? Is it interfering with electronical devices? Who knows? But when we took a look at it from this perspective, this is a top-down bird's eye view facing north, looking downwards. Where the skull is, that's the only emoji that I could find in regard to an animal skull, like a bighorn sheep. And then the mountain emoji is to do with the slope being up that way, where the marker is. You see that there, okay? And then the skull over that way is what you see down here, low ground. It's just that we're facing south on the map, whereas this one's facing north. But the distance taken from picture 1 to picture 2, 0.74 miles of part of the hike that Jef Cla did in 2016, where he noticed the strange features. But he didn't notice them immediately. It was years later. But at least there is hard evidence and material to back it up, because besides what's worded here and the low mileage, it may be hard to believe the timing. But when you take a look at, for example, the skull and the boulder, and in the background are those shallow caves which Kenny walked past, as you see in the short clips and his own footage, well, the details behind that file of the photo taken, it gives the time, it gives the date, 11:37 in the morning. And then when reaching the slope part, as if you were heading east from that direction, going up the slope, the agave pit on lower ground somewhere down there, taking roughly 10 minutes or so to get up the slope because of the steepness, the stamina, the age of the individual as well, and the distance already covered, maybe about 10 minutes or so. However, 1:47 p.m. What's happened to all that other missing time? Because Jef Cla wasn't messing about. He was on a mission to hike, and he was conscious of time and lighting originally in 2016. So what would have caused all of this? And even if it is maybe technology, some kind of malfunction or glitch, why did it happen in the same area where SB Vega's Adventures lost footage? Why is it in the same area where Kenny Veach was walking by, and when he said, "I'll end my video now, I'll see you later," as he's moving the camera up and down, it starts glitching out on screen visually? Is there some kind of electronical interference link amongst different hikers that pass through this particular area, whether it directly links to vibrations and zaps right here or elsewhere? Take in mind where Kenny Veach supposedly felt his vibrations is in a different location to where Jef Cla felt vibrations, but only those two, at least Jef, have missed time. Maybe Kenny Veach did, but he didn't bother looking back at his footage or checking the information behind it. So it's very strange. Now, this particular photo and the ones onwards are of 2025, 29th of May or so, which is the most recent hike out there by Jef Cla, moving about. I believe this is taken up the slope from possibly just a slightly different angle. but you can see the sunshine in the background casted upon the mountains. Looks to be getting darkish. Take in mind, Jef Cla did say that his footage, his point of view on camera, appeared brighter than what met his own eye when he was walking about. And to be doing it when it gets dark, if not complete darkness, is dangerous in itself. The fact that Jef Cla was in more awkward, dangerous conditions, and the factor of being 9 years older and yet managing to get the hike done much quicker, something like 40 minutes or so. In 2016, when he was younger, maybe a bit more agile, less injured, it took him 2 hours, 10 minutes. It makes no sense whatsoever. And take in mind, Jef Cla has his own footage, his hike video, which he'll be working on in the background, and eventually that will be released. So you will get to see more boots on ground footage. Serve this as a preview, but as a heads up that this location is rather creepy. There's a very strange mystery going on. Of course, whilst looking at some of these new slides of footage, if you do notice anything in the background, anything lurking or hiding, cave-related, creature, unknown thing, be sure to leave a timestamp below in the comment section. Let me know what you can see. And in addition, let me know your thoughts as in regard to this missing, lost time. In terms of what I see here, nothing much out of the ordinary. You've got the vegetation. Now, if we move on to the next slide, I believe this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is as if you were heading towards down Picture Canyon like how Kenny Beach did. And looking ahead, you can see how dark it is getting, even at that point. The gravel path, take in mind, I believe it was sometime in 2024 when Jef Vlogs came on down here to do his own hike. But at one point, the road down to the area, Joe May Road, same one what Kenny took to park his vehicle, was closed for unknown reasons. When it was reopened and Jef did his hike and he got to this area around roughly in the gravel, which was opposite the boulder and where the school would be, which Jef Cla documented in 2016, no longer there now. Jef Vlogs noticed, well, I didn't notice, but we did in the photos, that there were deep ruts, like lines in the ground parallel to one another, as if like a helicopter may have landed just outside of the supposed M-shaped caves. It's not received enough attention. I don't know if many people know about it, but if you do check my channel, I have documented it already. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in the distance is supposedly going down into Picture Canyon, dropping down. So it's rather interesting that the ground itself, there's a few patches and whatnot, but nothing too out of the ordinary. But these are just reference points in which Jef Cla is trying to capture along the way to highlight. We've got some more updated shots of the shallow cave there, which had the keyhole in and that weird looking supposed reptilian eye caught on camera by Sean Horlecker, unknown to him at the time. And then besides, the more prominent M-shaped looking cave, both are shallow, but who knows what's deeper within. If there is a rock wall, which may be hollow or not, and anything that's behind that going into the mountain area. And just a bit off camera, further to the left, on the same wall on the right, is the supposed covered M-shaped cave. And so the ground level, a few loose rocks, but not too much changed there. And roughly in this area is where the boulder would have been opposite those M-shaped caves, but the skull no longer present. Now, there seems to be a difference between the lighting. I don't know if it was taken at the same exact time, but these are just like preview clips just to spread that awareness. Updates can come when needed. Hopefully you found this preview video interesting. Be on the lookout for future updates on Jef Cla's own channel and his uploads of his hike. If you are interested in additional videos amongst the Kenny Beach M Cave mystery for the full playlist and all videos documented, you'll be able to find that top right corner screen where the eye symbol is. Be sure to leave your thoughts down below and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.